Hello, mic test, mic test. Hello, mic test, mic test. Hello, all. Hope you are able to hear my voice. Okay, so thank you for confirmation. And with that note, I'm getting started. Thank you very much, participants, for joining this webinar. And let's start quickly. And we have a lot to cover today. Coming topic to topic at first. Again, thank you very much for joining. We had around 1,400 participants registered for this webinar, and this was in fact, great surprise for me that so many people are interested in this topic, and that gives me a lot of courage to start and discuss, this topic. And this is one of the key topics, upcoming topics in project management, and we are live on both LinkedIn as well as YouTube. But I would request that if you have any questions, try to put in LinkedIn because YouTube feeds I'm not watching continuously. So with that note, let's quickly start what we are going to cover today. So learning objectives, we are going to cover here today PMO as we know. In that part, we are going to talk about, uh, you know, how we see as a PMO, how you see as a PMO, because all of you, I'm sure you would have good knowledge about PMO. And then we are going to talk about mega projects because the topic of this webinar is how to develop a high impact PMO for a mega project. So we are talking about mega projects. Therefore, we have to understand what are the nature of the mega projects, and that topic will cover in two parts. One is mega project landscape, wherein we'll talk about the characteristics of the mega project, and then we will talk about how the mega project risk works, because in order to have a high impact PMO development, we need to understand the nature of the mega project, how mega project risk works. And then going forward, we are talking about the VUCA word of mega projects. So we will understand that mega projects are complex, mega projects are risky, and that is why they are creating the mega project into a particular environment, and this is called the VUCA environment. So we talk about that. And then based on our understanding of the mega project and the dynamics and the complexity of mega project, we are going to talk about how to develop PMO for the mega project. Then one more element of the PMO is PMO governance. So we'll talk about how to develop a PMO governance, and then we'll talk about how to solve the problems, how the strategic approach we should have the PMO. With that, after that, we will have a Q&A session, and you can drop your Q&A, questions in text. Uh, I have a message that is this session recorded. Yes, of course, when we go live, the session get recorded, and you will have the session recorded on our YouTube and as well as LinkedIn page as well. So yes, this session is getting recorded. Now, um now a little bit of introduction about myself. My name is Ashutosh Maurya. I have worked in last 22 years. I have been into mega projects. I have worked in various large mega projects, and right now I'm a PMO lead of one of the very large airport projects in India. Prior to that, I have also worked in several mega projects in Middle East. So with that backdrop, let's get into our topic, PMO as we know. So we all know what is PMO. We have good understanding of PMO. So PMO is a project management office that we understand. So PMO is a group or department within business, agency, or enterprise that defines and maintains standards for project management within organization. And this is what we understand about the PMOs, right? So PMO strive to standardize and introduce economies of reputation in execution of projects. The PMO can be responsible for all the project, but sometimes PMO can be responsible of certain project of complexity. The role of PMO is to ensure that the projects are completed on time, within budget, and required level of quality. In addition to that, PMO may be responsible for managing risks associated with the project as well as providing advice and guidance to PMO to the project manager. Now, this is a general understanding we have about the PMO, and we also know that the PMO roles are, on the screen on the left, on the left hand side. Uh, the circle I have, circle we have. So the roles are governance, schedule management, finance management, risk management, quality management, resource management, and there can be I mean, the PMOs are quite a general thing, and so there can be other roles like, bringing good software to the project, or bringing good technology to the project, digitization initiative to the project. So PMO can be role of PMO can be many. The way organization sees that PMO can be of different times. So PMO per se is a very general thing, and that is where the challenges starts, because as a PMO, your roles, responsibilities are quite open-ended. Therefore, the expectation of the management as well as the your project teams also get changes. So this is what is one of the important things we'll discuss in this lecture, that in this webinar, that how to address those things as well. Okay, so role of PMO as I discussed, role of PMO can vary time to time, and this is what we understand of PMOs and PMOs responsibilities. Now, coming little bit of more background about PMOs, and a lot of time we get into the conventional way we look at the PMO. So PMO conventionally looked at like three types of PMO. One is supportive PMO, one is controlling PMO, and one is directing PMO. Now, in reality, do these things exist? As a PMO will be always supportive? Well, it should be. Well, the PMO will be all the time controlling? Well, it should be controlling as well. As a PMO should be giving direction as well? Yes, it should be giving direction as well. So definitely the configuration of PMO will never be as conventionally we think, that as per the conventional project management thought process, that either PMO can be supportive, either or PMO can be controlling, or PMO can be directive. But in the real life, the PMO's roles are all mixed together. Sometimes PMO has to be supportive, sometimes PMO has to be controlling, sometimes PMO has to be a directive as well. Now, in the given scenario that the PMO roles are not very much defined, PMOs, types are not very much defined. Expectation from PMO is such a way that you have to ensure that you we deliver and support the project delivery, as well as we have a governance mechanism as well. We are also responsible for auditing the project as well. Altogether, the expectation from PMO becomes very complex and challenge. So this is the first challenge when you design a PMO for a mega projects. Okay, so PMO itself as a definition is also challenging. So with that note, let's get little deeper into what are mega projects. Okay, so mega projects. Now, how you will define a mega project? That's little bit spend some time together there. So projects those makes news headlines are mega projects, right? So right now I am working in one of the India's biggest airport project, and this is a news clipping from the India's biggest newspaper, Times of India, and there was a news about the project which I am working currently on the newspaper. So basically, when you talk about PMO, when you talk about mega projects are really big projects like building an airport or power system. They are usually very complex and take a lot of time to finish. Mega project has been getting more and more common these days. I mean, common these days as well. So that is the other part, that nowadays we are getting a lot of mega projects. And there are various reasons behind that because now we have technology at our disposal, that as a humanity we can create more and more complex mega projects. Then there is a need also. So a lot of time, and now we have a lot of mega project triggering all over the world. Even in India, there is a lot push of mega project. Middle East, if you see, there is a big push of mega project in Saudi Arabia and all those reasons. Even United States also, a lot of mega project initiation has been started. So mega projects are getting quite common, uh, and the PMO role in mega project is quite significant here. So with that note, let's talk a little bit more about what are mega projects. Okay, so mega projects, changes landscape and quality of human life. They are important because they help us to learn how to work together in better way. Study of mega project help us understand different or how the different organization works, big and small. Both and the most important part of making mega projects successful is to figure out how different groups will work together. You know, now, I'm getting a lot of question popped up, and I will take all those question at last. So keep your question part, keep on pinging, and we'll cover the question, at last. Otherwise, I will lose the flow. So the most important part of making mega projects successful is to figure out how different group work together, rather than engineering management of it, or aspect, manpower aspects, and so on. So this is where the role of PMO comes into the picture to ensure that we have systems, we have procedures, we have vision, we have strategy to deliver the mega projects. So on this screen, you have two mega projects which I have put out historically to put the context. One is the Great Wall of China, and another is a Taj Mahal. So these were the mega projects. How much efforts would have been put in the historically to develop mega projects? The complexities, the efforts are still remains the same. With that note, let's talk a little bit more about talk about mega projects and what are the key characteristics of mega project which are important to understand at the time of developing PMO. And let's get into deeper of it. So far we are talking about the bigger picture. Now let's get to the key intricacies of the how mega projects works. So at first, challenging part of mega project is a shared entrepreneurship. Now, what do I mean by shared entrepreneurship? Right? So if you want to develop a mega project, so who will come into the picture? At first, and the most there are fair chances that the government of the country will come into the picture. That's part number one. Then there will be a developer who will come into the picture. And of course, the end user will be always in the picture, in the place, because he is creating the requirement of existence of mega project. So if you are talking about the airport project, a mega project, then we are talking about, you know, there is a air traffic increase in the country. Therefore, you need a mega project. If you are talking about a dam project, then definitely there is a there is a power requirement, or there is you want to control flood in the country. So there is always a reason behind it, and similar cases for all the road networks and all the so many things. In addition to those, when I talk about share entrepreneurship, there are financial, the bankers will come into picture, regulators will come to picture, legal agencies will come into the picture, environmental bodies will, the environmental agencies in every country, like there will be environmental governing agencies, will come into the picture. Public press will come into the picture, media will come into the picture. So when you talk about the mega projects, there are so many stakeholders, but certain stakeholders will be playing an entrepreneur role in the project in order to finance the project, in order to ensure the profitability with the project, in order to say that the project is beneficial, and that is called shared entrepreneurship. So if you are, like, if you context a mega project from a manufacturing project, say there is a car manufacturing, right? So in that, there will not be so many players, stakeholders working together and risking their business in order to run the mega project. Okay, so that is the meaning of shared entrepreneurship. And when you are configuring a PMO for that, we have to keep that thing in mind, that how the decision making is going to work in mega project setting. So there will be separation between stakeholder, there will be a separation between the shared entrepreneurship. So that those things are the nodal point when we talk about talk about PMO setting for the mega projects. So my the whole takeaway is, the PMO setting is not about making systems and procedure, but has to look at the holistic and bigger picture, and in what context the mega project is running. Okay, so if you talk about entrepreneurship, if you talk about entrepreneurship, now if we talk about entrepreneurship, I have been Okay, so there was an issue in live, so a live stream, but there was issue from LinkedIn side, which the message I got. But if you are, you can let me post the message. You can. Okay, so I understand that the LinkedIn live is again on, and the sorry for the issue, but I believe the things are okay now. So I'm again starting. Can you please confirm that everything is fine? Yeah, perfect. So let's start it here again, and let's talk about the other part is infancy trap. When mega project start, not all the mega project make it to even a design stage. It takes like years together to have mega project started. So now, depending on the organization, if you're operating a PMO in a government organization where you are engagement with the initiation or the conceptualization or the gestation period of the mega project, there are chances that the mega project which you are choosing can even not survive and it will not go into the next stage. So that is called infancy trap in the mega project. Okay, so so that is called infancy trap in the mega projects. The second thing is that all the mega projects operate in a partnership with governments. So again, it become very much challenging when you operate with government because law changes, the regimes changes, and the mega projects become very difficult to deliver. Then we have a regulatory difficulties as well. Then we get into regulatory difficulties as well, and these regulatory difficulties are in the terms of lot of red tape is there in specific countries. Sometime official, you know sometime when after the regulators comes in the picture, and they're with the new regime and regulatory regime. So that is what the makes mega projects challenging, and the entrepreneurship of the mega projects become very difficult because mega project is started, they are not able to realize the benefit, and we continue to have issues on that part. Now there are also there are other things which impact the mega project performance. These are sector rules. Every sector has a rule per se. If you're operating in an airport sector, it will be driven by certain rules in the terms of business. Sometimes suppose there is a COVID, then the air traffic will come down substantially. And those mega projects which were planned to be taken care of pre-COVID stage, they were deferred or delayed for several times because of those rules of the sector. Then mega projects are also real life social experiment. I'll quickly walk through all the elements. Um, Sometimes mega projects have stopped because of they are not able to fit into the overall social structure of the country or the other or the or the place where they are operating. We have several examples of mega projects throughout the globe which could not uh, you know get cleared by environmental clearances. Then there is a slow clock transition speed. It takes several years to build a mega project. Generally, if you talk about airport or if you talk about uh, you know airport, it will take 5 to 5 years to get the fully commission. If you talk about dams, it can take like 15 years. If you talk about large road network projects, so these projects are like ongoing for maybe for 10 years. So that is where the slow clock transaction speed of the mega project is, and how in such a difficult and challenging environment you have to run something called PMO, design the PMO and run the PMO. So all the points it has to be kept in mind. All the variables have to be kept in mind. Now there is a lumpy, dedicated, and irreversible asset. What do I mean by that? Once a mega project is built, it is built. You cannot demolish it. You cannot. You cannot. You just check if there are questions. Yeah. So I think everything is going fine. Yeah. So in that mega project settings, it is it is very difficult. Once the mega projects are built, they are built. You can't do anything to that. Right? And then they are very high stake games because you talk about mega projects, and they the mega project things are starting in like $100 of million. So I'm using dollar currency. So they start with $100 of million. So multi $100 million project, and they goes up to $1 billion. So with that thing, all the player, those who are involved in the mega project, they are highly stressed. They are highly concerned about the mega projects, and which reflects into their executives, their project teams, and of course the PMO. And then expectation of PMO is to ensure that whatever the variable and characteristics of mega project I am discussing here, the PMO is bringing solution to the table in order to deal with those complexities. And last point is, which is the most important part, is the project performance. There might be scenarios that all the above point above the project performance, it would be like, it would have been dealt nicely. But one thing is for sure that one thing is for sure that the project performance is always challenging, because delivering such a large complex mega projects are going to be a very challenging and difficult, task. So with that note, let's little bit go forward and talk about what are the risks in the mega projects. So this point, so we are getting a lot of comments is getting frozen and I'm helpless. So let me, the LinkedIn live is not so reliable, it seems. Okay, please use YouTube. Okay, so that makes sense. Now let's talk about what are the risks we have in mega projects. So this is what the risk we have in the mega projects, and again, as a PMO, our responsibility to deal with those risks. First is the commercial viability, which I just discussed before. Does the mega project make overall commercial sense to all the parties or not? That is one. Then construction, there are construction risks. What is construction risk? Can you build a mega project on time or within budget or not? Then we are having revenue risk, and we are having operating risk. Then we are having input supply risk. When I say input supply risk is, what are the things required to deliver the mega projects? Will be available in adequate amount within time to deliver the mega projects? They are always challenging. There are uninsured risk and related issue. We have environmental risk, and there are a lot of risk even after management. There are a lot of residual risk which as a at the time of managing risk we cannot manage as well. Then there are contract mismatches. So mega projects, you will operate in various contracts. One contract you will give certain work, other part you will give certain works. All they are synced together. That is other contractors. So these are basically commercial risk, which makes mega project quite challenging. And again, at the time of setting PMO, we have to ensure that we are able to address those things. Then we have a macroeconomical risk as well, which macroeconomical risk is which is coming from the overall bigger bigger economic of the geopolitical and economic thing, which is coming from the whole economy of the country where the mega project is operating. So one is a interest rate risk, we all know that, foreign exchange risk, and also refinancing risk, and again regulatory and political risk, which we little bit talk about before as well. So these are the mega projects. So you will be thinking that I'm all talking about negativity about the mega projects. They are difficult. The entrepreneurship is very challenging. At the starting, we will even do not know if the mega project is going to be commercially viable or not. There are so many type of risk in the mega project. Of course, they are. And this is where the PMO and the project management tools and techniques comes in the picture to help the mega project to deal this issue. And of course, not all the times the effort made by the mega project leaders are 100% successful. There are failures here and there. However, if we implement the project management methodology and practices in a nice way, it helps to overcome all this issue, and again it helps to realize the benefit of the project. Now we understood all about the mega projects, characteristics, and risk. So eventually, what is happening because they are so complex? So what we call is that the VUCA word of mega projects. So let's talk about what is VUCA word. So VUCA word comes that complexity, volatility, ambiguity, and uncertainty, right? So the whole mega projects are so dynamic that they are volatile. So what is volatile means? It refers to the fact that the environment of the mega projects are always constantly changing. For example, regulator has changed the regulation, then it will that will be the volatile situation, right? Similarly, there is always uncertainty in the mega projects. Okay, so what is, you know, uncertainty? Uncertainty is despite lack of information, the event basic cause and effect or not. So what is complexity? So volatility means the things are changing, right? Things are changing, and we know that things are changing. They are unstable. Sometimes uncertainty refers to the fact that even we do not know why the things are happening, so that we cannot understand the root cause of it. Okay, so that is where the uncertainty is coming. And we have something called ambiguity, right? Ambiguity is that the environment is so unclear at the time of construction of the, say, major road projects. We know that there there are there will be traffic, right? But we do not know that on what parameter the traffic forecast will change. There is always some parameters which are not so clear to us. So this is where the ambiguity comes in picture. Okay, so when you talk about ambiguity, that is totally things are not known. Okay, so the terms of ambiguity, uncertainty seem same. Uncertainty is a situation where you know that there is a relationship between two variables, that this will happen this, but you are not sure that how the other variable will behave, right? But ambiguity is a scenario where you do not know anything at all, right? And one of the important thing is complexity. So what do you mean by complexity? Complexity is a scenario where you have a lot of variables moving parts together, no? So regulator is having of one opinion, the project EPC contractor, engineering, procurement, and construction contractor behaves in a different way, right? Okay, then the financier is behaving, may behave in a separate way. Government may behave in a separate way. So there are various bits and pieces, they are moving together, right? And that is called the complexity. So we have to make them sync together, and something you can predict, something you cannot predict, and you are living in the world of increasing complexity. So this is where the whole negativity part, a whole challenging part of the mega projects we are talking about. Now the question arises, how best we can solve, how we should solve, and what you should aim for, and that is where the PMO roles comes in the picture. PMO as a body, by managing, by implementing, by supervising, by controlling all the project management tools and processes and systems, setting visions, objectives, strategizing. PMO can help to large extent to overcome this complexity, volatility, ambiguity, and uncertainty. Okay, so let's first talk about what a PMO should be visioning upon. Okay, so this is what is called VUCA 2, which is like the way a PMO should be visioning, right? So in order to manage the challenging of manage the challenging mega project, we have to move from this slide, which is talking about the earlier side. So what was the earlier slide? Earlier slide was talking about complexity, volatility, ambiguity, and uncertainty. We have to move from that part to a more refined way of managing project, which starts with a vision, understanding, courage, and adaptability. Okay, so this is where this slide I've taken from certain research, which was done in terms of managing complexity and uncertainty in the mega project. So it is the first thing is that when you want to take mega project towards success, the first thing is the vision setting is important, and of course the vision setting will be done by the main project proponent. So he has a vision to deliver the project. A lot of time the government sets a vision that they have to develop big infrastructure. Other vision can be a vision can be if the PMO is within the organization and they are delivering the project, they got to have their vision. Okay, now what is the second part? Let me just check if there are people are able to live it, watch it nicely or not. So let me watch towards another window. Okay, so now we are getting okay. So we are getting certain messages. All is fine. Okay. So thank you everyone. And then we are getting some weird messages as well. We'll talk about that in later part. So uh, let's talk about uh, let's talk about vision, understanding, courage, and adaptability. Okay. So vision is we talked about that. Then what this is called understanding. So it is required that we have a the leaders, the PMO, and even the CXOs of the company have a good understanding of the whole business scenario, right? The economic sense of the project. That is other part which is very important. And then third part, the third element is courage. Now we know that mega projects operate in a lot of uncertainties. Mega project operate in a lot of ambiguities. So what is required in order to sail through the mega project? A lot of courage is required as an organization as a whole to take a risk and go ahead in the mega project, as well as the leaders of the mega project, and as well as the PMOs also. So if there is no courage, what will happen? There will call the decision paralysis. Okay, decision paralysis means no one will be able to take the decision because they don't have courage to do that. So the new word of VUCA is very much important, that the courage must be there within the organization, within the individual, those who are delivering the mega project. Now this is very important thing. We have seen in several projects, those projects where the leaders were having vision, they understood the business, they understood the project, and they were courageous. They could take to project to large successful extent. Even they have vision, they have understanding, but they don't have the boldness to take decision, right decision on time. Due to lack of courage, the mega project suffers. That is my own personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree to that. Okay. Now, the last point is adaptability, right? So, what is adaptability? Adaptability means the flexibility in the rapidly changing environment. So, adaptability is like, the whole world is going through the tremendous changes thanks to digitization and technology. Now, adaptability is very important in terms of making the project success. There was a case study I was reading to that, and it was that the NASA was developing spacecraft and rockets. However, when Elon Musk came, he changed the fundamentals of how the rockets would be developed, and he adopted the things which were more of a making business sense, so that the something that NASA was stopping his to large extent NASA was curtailing their the space exploration project due to the fund limitations and other factors. However, some private person is coming, and he is more agile, he's more adaptable, and taking the mega project scenarios into the next level. So that is where the adaptability comes. We have to configure our mega projects in such a way that they are more adaptable towards future. And someone was mentioning word sustainability. Of course, sustainability is a key part from mega project delivery perspective. So with that, I conclude this slide. So let's quickly understand what we covered so far. So we started with something called, what are the PMO? What you and I know as a PMO. That PMO is a body which sets systems and procedure for the company where the projects are running, right? That is what we understand. However, then I walk you through the challenges what mega projects have, and then I set a stage where I talked about the mega projects are volatile, mega projects are ambiguous, and mega projects have uncertainties and so many things. And then I took you to the stage where I'm talking about that organization which is running the mega project, which is those who are proponent of mega project, those who are taking the mega project forward. In order to deal with all the things, they should have vision, understanding, courage, and adaptability, right? And let's see how using PMO we can do that. Okay, so how we should be designing the PMOs. Okay, so let's talk about that. Now, getting back to the little bit of theoretical construct of PMO, what are the fundamental PMO principles? Okay, and this is what I have adopted from AI PMO. The first and the foremost principle is sponsorship, right? Now, PMO is not a value adding or profit making entity within any organization, right? So while PMO will be providing a lot of benefits, but those PMO benefits are not, they are generally intangible. And in order for PMO to succeed, the first and the foremost important thing is that senior management is sponsoring it and providing support. And there is a huge level of engagement with 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 the senior management. So if you are running a PMO, or you are intending to be a PMO professional, or just for your knowledge sake, the first and foremost important thing is that you should be moving next to the CXO of the company in order to run the PMO. If you are not able to do that, or even your company senior management is not aligned to that direction, there are very good probability that PMO will not be successful. So that is part number one. The second part is alignment. Now, whole PMO philosophy and whole PMO design should be aligned towards the overall organization governance, because the projects are part of certain organization, right? The projects are not happening every day. Even say we talk about any highway authority of a highway authority of a very highway authority of any country, right? So they are delivering the projects, they are maintaining their projects, but every time they do the project, they do it once, and all the decision making process and everything other apart from the project delivery, there is a set of the how the organization will be covered. So your PMO design should be aligned to the overall organization governance process, right? Then there is something called principle 3, that is transparency. In order to successfully run the PMO, you need to have trust. You trust of the project manager, trust of CXO, trust of the stakeholders, even the trust of all the other entrepreneurship bodies which you work along with them. Okay. So how the trust will be built? A simplest way to build a trust is transparency, right? So what you are supposed to do? You have to provide consistent, accurate, timely, and transparent information to all those who are associated with PMO. So if you are not able to do that, if you as a PMO leader are not showing transparency, again, the PMO existence will get challenged. Then the whole principle is challenged. So what does I mean by that? PMO time to time act as an advisor. So in the beginning we talk about type of PMO. So one is a supportive PMO, one is a directive PMO, and one of the PMO type is like you are continuously looking at the whole organization system, the whole organization value proposition. So you are continuously challenging the status quo. You are continuously challenging what 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 organization is creating values. So as a PMO, you have to act in a such a way that if any progress is made within the organization, you are called, and you know you are challenging the the whole processes, you are challenging the outcome, and you are a trusted challenger to that. Okay. So this is all about the challenge. This is all about the the principle of challenging, right? The other principle is adjustment. Adaptability I have already highlighted in quite a detail. So you got to have adjusting to the changing need of the organization. A lot of time I've seen that PMOs would set systems and procedures, but the business environment will get changed, and they would keep the same systems and procedure for years together, and the business dynamics changes year by year, and therefore the PMO setup is getting challenged, as well as the organization capability to deliver the projects and services, or the whatever they deliver, whatever business they get challenged because the PMOs are not able to adjust to it. Right. Now, the another thing is that as a PMO, you have to lead as exemplar, which means that you have to lead by examples. What you do and what you say should be the same. And again, this is coming from the trust point of view. If you do something and say something, or say something and do something else, you won't be able to build trust. Right. Principle 7 is improvement. Right. Continuous improvement in the mindset is required in order to run the PMOs. If you are not improving PMO, then what will happen? You will not be able to adjust to the to the business need. Your competitor will start doing something better as an organization, as a project delivery mechanism, and sometime your existence will get challenged. Right. Now, principle number 8, value addition. Now, as I mentioned in the earlier that when PMOs are like, they are not producing any tangible financial output. They are supporting in order to do that. And therefore, it is very important that there is a visibility of PMO contribution to the organization growth, organization revenue making, and supporting the CXOs and the decision maker and the board within the company. So that should be a value addition visible. Again, I'm repeating, the word visible is very important here. As a PMO, you have to market your, if you are a PMO lead or if you are a PMO manager, you have to always market what you are, how you are adding value to your organization by making your efforts. If you are failing to sell yourself within the organization, again the PMO, the whole the management loses trust in the PMO. The people, the project managers loses trust in the PMO. The stakeholder loses trust in the PMO, despite the fact that PMO will be adding a lot of value to the organization. If they are started to lose the trust, then the PMO, PMO things will get challenging. So these are the 8 fundamental principle, basically little bit of molding which I done from the AI PMO. But this is the governing principle. If you want to be a PMO professional, you can take a note of these professionals and just mark on stone that these are the principles, or guiding principles. Okay. Well, let's talk about let's little bit talk about how we should design PMO. Okay, and then let's talk about uh, how this has been envisaged and how this has been thought. So far, we have already talked about the challenges in the mega projects, right? And then we have talked about, the first thing is that vision is important, right? So what is happening at the top? Let's talk about here. At first, you have an organization vision and mission, right? Right. So what is the organization vision and mission? Where they want to reach, that is a vision, and what they are eventually delivering, that comes out to be a mission on that. So that is where we start when we design the PMO services. We start with that part, and then in order to achieve the vision and mission, we are going to have a strategy, and then we are going to have enterprise environment factors, right? So a strategy is something what we have to do something, we have to go somewhere. How we are going to take the steps one by one, that is part of strategy. And then enterprise environmental factors have various factors where various resources, you have various resources to that, you have various people to that, we have various equipments and whatnot. So whatever the enterprise, as an enterprise, when I say as a company, what you have are the resources to deliver your vision and mission based on your organization strategy. There is an enterprise environment. So when you understand this as a PMO vision totally, and we have talked about more and more detail about the mega project challenges. So you keep the mega project challenges one side, complexities one side, and then you have organization vision and mission and a strategy and the resources at your disposal. Then you decide that as a PMO, what is your vision, what is your mission, what is your strategy, and what is your goal, right? So you take a note of that, very important, and write that this is a PMO vision. How the PMO is going to help the CXOs in making decision, how PMO is going to help project managers deliver project more efficiently, what are how the digital technology and tools the PMO will come, how PMO will help the sustainability of the project. So many things. You have to have a basically a own PMO vision, and then probably the best thing would be that you publish the PMO vision, get alignment with management, because as I said that the sponsorship in the earlier principle I highlighted that a sponsorship from the management is very important. So you have a vision, you have a mission, a strategy and goal, and you discuss with your management and get their concurrence on that and get alignment on that. Okay. Let me quickly check if there are issues in terms of uh, uh, in terms of delivery. No, I don't see that. If there are any, then you can just pop in here. So when you have the things set, then what you're going to talk about, the first thing is adaptive alignment, continuous improvement, management, and governance. Right. So your processes should be adaptive. They need to continuously improve. They needs to be managed. If you are a PMO leader, then you have to manage it. And then other role of PMO is governance, which we are going to talk in a moment. So PMO governance is very important. So what you do, that how you develop the PMO? First of all, you have a business needs, right? So business need is something which is coming from all the things we discussed, right? And then you identify and evaluate the strategy what you are going to do that. Then you do something is called design and justification. plan and implementation, and then you identify and evaluate a strategy and transform or retire. Okay. So let me take an example to explain how we should be doing as a PMO service. So let's take an example of that. You are operating a mega project and you are a PMO head there, right? And then there is a need of a implementation of a document control system in the project. Okay, right? So how you should be, uh, how you should be providing that service as a PMO to your project managers. So at first there's a business need, right? Efficient document management system will help to deliver the project in a better way, right? So there is a business need. You have identified the need. Now you identify the strategy, identify and evaluate the strategy. So what you are going to do that? You are into construction and you know that there are some uh, proprietary proprietary document management system which are very helpful in the project delivery. So you make a you make a case that I have to deliver the project where I'm into construction, and there are you identify the how you're going to solve the challenge of the document management system, and then you evaluate your strategy in terms of given budget. You evaluate your strategy in terms of time, and you evaluate your strategy in terms of how much efficiency that solution will bring on the table, right? Then you design the system and prepare a justification, right? So when you design the system means, okay, I'm going to configure this software in that way, and then you have a justification that this system will cost me this much, however this will add this much value to the project. So that is the step number two. Then what you are necessarily going to do, that you are going to get management approval that this PMO service I want to implement, right? And you get management approval. The third point which is highlighted here is plan and implementation here, right? So this is what you do, and then you have identify and evaluate the strategy. This is an ongoing process, right? So you continue to identify that is the system working properly, or there is improvement required, or do you want to reconfigure your document management system. So you continuously work it, and at certain point of time, depending on the type of project, if you're working in one project or if you're working in multiple projects, you may also transfer, transform, or retire that particular system. Okay. So this is how the PMO life cycle basically works. So you have to take one service, right? And I'm just coming down and talking about how to look PMO as a service. So you will take one service, and then each and every service you are going to look upon in that particular way. Then you are continuously monitoring and controlling the whole PMO life cycle by providing various services, right? And in order to do that, what are the capability you have to have? First of all, you have to have a strategy related capabilities, right? So how good a strategy you bring on the table, that will help you to develop the service as well as implement the service also, right? So document management system, if you want to bring in your organization, there might be things that the whole organization is using a particular way of hard copies. They don't want to shift on digital, which is a rare case now. But how, which way you put the strategy, and I'm talking about a strategy at the very end of this lecture, how the strategy will work. And then other capability are business related. Then are are you continuously able to align the PMO towards the organization business need? Then the next capability is project program and portfolio related. So that is like how much competency you have in the project management, because when you say the PMO project management office, you need to have a very strong capability and understanding of how project management work, how scope management work, how schedule management work, how cost management work, how how procurement management works. So that is other competency you need to have if you are a if you are developing a PMO. So basically what I want to highlight, that as a PMO, you as a PMO head or the PMO manager or the person who is leading PMO effort should have these capabilities: strategy, business, project management, and service and capabilities related also. Now, what is a service and capabilities related means? You might be operating in particular domain. Says you are operating a PMO for a say a real a manufacturing, right? A manufacturing organization. So you got to have certain capacities within the PMO who understand the business as well. Okay, right? So this is how the PMO capabilities are required. Then service strategy, the how you are providing a PMO as a service. You got to have service strategy, that what are the services you're going to provide. So I talked about as a document control management system. Then we are going to have service design. You are going to design the services, then you are going to plot and implement the services, and then you are going to talk about service operation, and then you retire and transfer. So these are basically the PMO services life cycle. Okay. Now, then I gave example of document management system, but as a PMO, you're going to offer various services. You can offer the project control services. You can offer, the cost management services as a PMO. You can offer, quality control services as a PMO. So basically, when I say the services, when I say schedule management services, which means that PMO will be having, the whole whole program schedules captured as a master schedule, an integrated master schedule, and PMO will be monitoring each and every project. So that service will be a scheduling service. Sometime PMO will be also providing the cost accounting and cost management services to the project. So what they will do is they will receive all the accruals, what the expenditure made in every project, and at the end of every month, they will provide the list of expenditure made in the particular project. So now what I want to say here, what and then there can be various services domain. Maybe you are providing this digitization support to your projects and all those. So essentially, this flow chart, this flow chart, which is put in a very nice way. It is what you call decoding the whole thing PMO should do, how it should do, and and so on, right? So basically, these are guided by two things. One is PMO principles, which we talked in earlier slide, and then PMO maturity model. So once you start delivering the services, you continue to reach maturity. Means, what do you mean by maturity? Means, what are the services you're bringing on table, they are acceptable, the people are getting aligned to aligned to that, your services you are bringing on the table, as well as the organization is continuously realizing the benefit from that. Okay. So sometimes PMO is adopting some changes to the organization. So immediately what happens, the curves goes down, if the productivity goes down, and the benefit comes at the later stage. So this is where the PMO maturity thing is important. Over the time, you continuously monitor and control your services, your delivery, and you reach higher and higher maturity level. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit more about the capabilities part of it. So what are the things you as a PMO leaders you should I mean, not a PMO leader, as a PMO as a whole, what are the things which are required to be thought of, right? So first of all, in order to be a successful PMO, and when I say successful PMO, means the PMO which has got PMO which is trusted by the CXOs, PMO is success by the teams, PMO is success by their project managers, and there is a visible value creation by PMO. We got to have three important elements. One is organizational enablers, which is not in the hand of the PMO or the PMO manager or the PMO lead. And then there are personal attributes, which people or the professionals or the PMO leaders should have. And there are domain areas where they should have a knowledge and competencies to that. Okay. So if this triangle is managed nicely, the PMO will be able to add the visible value to the organization outcomes, and therefore it will become a successful PMO. So let's quickly talk about that. Organizational enablers. First of all, ability for organization leader to see the big pictures, right? Are they having right vision? We talked about that before. Culture and values, politics and power, governance and compliance, and industry acumen. These are the things which organization has to have in totality in order to have a PMO to be successful. If anything, the organization leaders are missing the vision. They are not able to drive the organization into the right direction in the value creation. Definitely, PMO set up within the organization, and even the whole organization survival and sustainability will be challenged. Right? Culture and values are important. Power and politics, that is a very clear important thing, because in order for any entity, any individual or any organization to perform, they should be given authority, right? And authorities and power are linked together. No one can perform if he is not given power, and he is not authorized to do that, right? And always there is a political play, because power is managed, manipulated in several ways. So if the organization's political alignment within the organization and the organization external political environment is not aligned, and power is uh, not given into the right hands, which can contributing to organization, the whole PMO, functioning will be challenging. So power and politics plays a good role. Governance and compliance are important things because governance are governance supports in decision making, and we are going to talk about governance in a while. And compliance to the governments are required. Industry leaders should have business acumen as well. Now, these are the personal attribute what PMO leaders should have. First is emotional intelligence, professionalism, communication, leader, management, teamwork, effectiveness, cognitive intelligence, impact, and influence. Right. So, emotional intelligence is that you understand what when to say, what to say. You understand emotions of the people. I can in this 1 hour we cannot go in depth of everywhere. Professionalism. What is professionalism? You behave like a professional, which is committed to delivery. You are able to communicate written and verbal. Leadership, ability to take your team towards a particular direction, lead them. Management is ensuring that the work is getting done. Teamwork, you are able to collaborate so that you are able to get best out of the team. Effectiveness is that whatever you are doing, are they producing right results? So that is effectiveness. Cognitive intelligence, as a PMO, you are going to get lot many information, right? So are you able to digest those information? Are you able to make you know right inferences? So that is the example of cognitive intelligence. Then are you impact and influence are required. Then there are so many things which are coming from the project management areas, right? So integration management, stakeholder management, governance management, and so on, which is on the list. So one should be able to have a good domain knowledge on the project management as well as a specific domain knowledge where the organization is operating. So if you are, and now we are talking about mega projects. So if you are into like mega project, dams or bridges or road, you as a PMO head, you got to have the domain knowledge as well in order to understand it, in order to guide the organization, in order to deliver the projects. So these are the competencies framework. It has to be kept in mind in order to ensure that the PMOs are adding right value to the organization. Right. Now there's one more part of the PMO that is called PMO governance. Right. So what is governance? We all know what is governance. You can ask your question yourself. So what is PMO governance? Authority and guidance necessary to enable PMO and other project stakeholder to pursue the project management in a manner that is consistent with business interest and operating standard. Okay, so that is basically governance, as well as examining of how well authority and guidance are being applied within the project management empire, where PMO serve as a dual role of examiner and examiner. So what PMO as a governance is doing that PMO is deciding rules of decision making, and then the PMO is also looking at that if those rules are followed or not. Okay, so how to do a good PMO governance, which is required for the success of PMO? Let's talk about it. Okay, so here are certain principle of PMO governance. One principle is some fundamental principle and guiding principle, and then there are effective governance principles, right? So let's talk about some fundamentals and guiding principle. What are the PMO governance guiding principles? Okay, so just give me a moment, please. So these principles are quite a general principle. They are accountability, responsibility, transparency, fairness, and conformance. So these are the general governance principle one organization should have in order to manage the PMO governance part. Accountability means a person. There are people and person responsible for that, accountable for that. Accountability means answerability, and there are certain person who are responsible for that in order to deliver that. Right. Transparency, fairness, sustainability, and conformance. These are certain PMO governance principle, which I'm not talking in much detail. So these are the guiding principles, right? And there are certain principles for effectiveness of the governance system, and these are like ensure a single point of accountability of success of the project, right? So company board or the stakeholder or the project review team should be making a single person responsible for success of the project. Okay. This ensures the clarity of leadership plus clarity and timeliness of decision making. Okay. So governance decision making requires that one person is singly accountable for the project, and then he has been authorized and given powers powers and resources to meet the meet the project success, but accountability lies with one person, right? And sometime we call chief project officer, sometime we call chief development officer. So there, these are the terms. But as we know that in the overall governance setting, one person should be made accountable for the overall project delivery. Now other thing is service delivery ownership determine the project ownership, right? Now what why it is important that this principle should be adopted is that suppose there is a project controls manager, or suppose there is a risk manager, or suppose is a construction manager. That person should own his particular work, his particular responsibility, so that so that so that the accountability is fixed. And if there is a ownership of every block of the organization, then overall project delivery would happen, right? That ensures separation of stakeholder management and project decision making activities. One of the government's governance requirement is projects are given quick decision on time, right? Sometimes what is happening that the organization decision making layers are so complex that they take a lot of time to take the project decisions. Okay. I have been to mega projects where the decision was going up to various board levels. Okay. So first of all, the project board level, then it goes to the company board level, then it goes to various level, and then it goes to government because that was a government organization. So if the stakeholder management and the project decision activities are mixed together, the decision making will get clogged. And one of the important responsibility of project governance is to ensure that the quick decisions are taken. Therefore, the decision making between the projects and decision making between the projects as well as the stakeholder management is separated, right? Now, ensure separation of project governance and organization governance as well. So, why it is important? Because projects are relatively different from the how the companies are operated, right? So suppose there is a real estate company, right, which is into managing the real estate assets, right? And then this company is starting a big real estate project, right? So probably the particular manager within the company will be authorized to say sign off the expenses of say $10,000, right? Okay. But in the project setting, these expenses, these limits will not work because the amount of the capital expenditure made in the project will be substantially higher. So the project authorities, responsibilities, accountability, power in the project and the mega project decision making environment should be separated from that of the parent organization. Otherwise, the decision making will get very much delayed. People will get frustrated. Things will get delayed. So these are the some of the important governance principles, okay, that we should have. Again, needless to say that in short time of 1 hour we cannot cover everything. So I'm just touching basing everything which is important to run a high impact PMO, right? So let's quickly recap so far what we have learned. We started with what you understand PMO, then we talked about mega project challenges, then we talked about what is eventually happening the VUCA word, and then we talked about VUCA 2, which we talked about what where we want to reach. And then so far we talked about in the last 20 minutes we talked about how we should design PMO, right? In a mega project setting with a simple example of a document management system. And then we also talked about the project governance system, which is one of the key part of the PMO, right? So making procedures, ensuring that those procedures are followed. So this is what the decision and enable when procedures are made in such a way that the decision making is enabled. The quick decisions are taken, right decisions are taken. So that is the purpose of the governance. Okay. Now we talked about everything. So far you understand the challenges, you know how to design the PMO services, and but there are always a challenge in implementing the PMO services. Okay. Even if you have designed the best services, you cannot still implement those because people are resistant to change. They want where there are very less people in the world, those who want to come out from their what you call comfort zone, right? So how to take those things forward and start implementing it. So there are this is where the strategy comes in the picture. And these strategies has basically two components. One is a problem solving component, and there are strategic approaches. So I'll quickly say that problem solving approaches. What do I mean by problem solving approaches? Although I'm not getting more details into that because I want to keep in the time limit. So problem solving approaches means you have to define a problem, right? So what problem exactly is, then you have to solve the root cause of it, get the root cause of it, and then you have to get the best solution which suits that. Right? In a lot of time, in the project setup, people don't do this thing in the rational way. They just jump to the solutions. They don't even frame what is the problem, right? And they beat around and they eventually have a bad impact on the project. So the takeaway is that how to how to frame the problem. That is, sometimes framing the problem is more important than solve the solution of it. And there are certain strategic approaches which I am going to talk about it. Right? So there's one approach is called direct approach, and one approach is called indirect approach. Okay. So what direct approach says that if there is a problem, you get the root of the problem, right? And then you solve the problem, right? And then there is an indirect approach, which is little different from that. So these approaches are basically coming from the war philosophy of the how the war has been fought. So it is coming from some things which I picked up from First World War, how the countries those who were engaged in the war won, and some things came out from the recent war philosophies. So direct is attack the attack the defensive position. Suppose you're going to fight somebody, so he has put his blockade. The army is that side, so you just attack on the blockade of the army and try to penetrate on the enemy zone, right? So that is called direct strategy, right? The indirect strategy is little different. Indirect strategy is something that you start to disrupt the whole equilibrium of the system, and then start to attack where you can win. Right? So direct strategy is not about attacking where you can win. Direct strategy is to start with what is in front of you. But indirect strategy is to do a reiki of the whole problem and then start working on where you can win. Okay. So this is where the this strategy comes in the picture, which has picked up from Colonel John A. Warden strategy, right? And this is into management sciences, big time into management sciences. So when we take as an organization, how the organization indirect approach looks like. Right? First thing is the leadership, which is a core of the organization. So there are CXOs and management board. So there is a leadership part of it. Then there is a second layer, which is a command and control layer. And every organization you will see that the CXOs are surrounded by some of the loyal, long-term, strategically important employees are leadership positions, right? So they may be vice president of the organization, or they may be some loyal employees. So this is where the leadership, and then these are the command and control center of the organization, right? And then the third layer is organic essential. In order to run the organization, there are certain things which organizations need. That is finances, the other resources which organization is requiring to build. If the organic essential will not be there, the organization will disappear. They will not be able to survive. So cash is one important part of that. And depending on our organization type, there will be different type of organic essentials. Then there are organizations, there are infrastructure employees, and this is organization. The outside circle is the organization boundary, and then on top of that, outside it is a society, right? Now, if you take a mega project setting, then what will happen? You will be a CXOs, or the chief development officer, or the chief project officer, and then you are sitting in the command and control center here. You yourself are sitting in a command and control center, and then there are organic essentials, infrastructure employees. Now you want to bring a system and procedure and you want to say you want to decide some of the processes of your project, right? And you have to start it. Right? Now, the conventional strategy will tell you that on this layer, on infrastructure layer or employee layer, there are a project manager sitting, and you have to implement those practices to them, right? So what you're going to do, you're going to make your services PMO services, and then you're going to publish it to these people, right? And you know that these peoples are going to be reluctant to implement it. So the conventional direct approach wisdom tell that go confront with them and implement it, right? But what if you say indirect approach, right? So you are going to say that I am going to get most resistance from infrastructure and employee circle. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a stack of the organic essentials and say that my systems and processes are going to add blah 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 values to the organization, and you go to the leadership, which you know that is going happily to support you implement this idea, so that you are convincing are winning the early victories. Okay, so where the strategies are weaker, you go there and start to implement that. Okay, so you go to leadership and talk. There can be different situation also, right? Where you are running a PMO, which is also responsible for increase of the salaries and all those, and you know that if you go to leadership will may bring down your proposal, but for the good benefit of the organization, you know that there must be some good salary increment. So where you're going to reach there, you're going to get to the employees, talk to them, get an environment in the organization where leadership is going to accept that. Okay. So what is indirect approach is that when you are implementing something where you are in a war zone, or you are doing something new, you have to identify which will be the first buyer of your case, an easy buyer of the case, go and sell them, start canvassing those changes in early, and then start to implement it. So this is how PMO's strategy can be nicely implemented. So this is what is called the indirect approach. Okay. So with that, I come to the end of this session, and with right time, 1 hour 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes we can have some questions if required. So let's quickly, before we go to the questions, let's quickly recap what we have learned, although we have repeated the same thing several times. So we talked about PMO as we know. So we talked about the PMO definitions. We talked about PMO is a body who manages the project management processes, systems, and implement it, right? So that is a conventional wisdom we know, right? Then we talked about mega project challenges. We were talking about mega project risk maps. Okay, and I'm sure that I have left a good impression on your mind that when you are managing PMOs in the mega project, what are the variables? What are the 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 what are the nuts and bolts you should look before you start to think about how to strategize your PMO, right? We talk about uncertainties, volatility, uncertainties, complexities and ambiguities in the mega project setting. And we also talk about what should be our best stage, where what should be aiming at. So that was VUCA 2, and which was coming from firstly the vision, and then followed by other important key ingredient. Okay. Then we talk about a very, very simple method of how to develop a high impact PMO, how to develop the PMO services. So therein we talked about break down the PMO into very, very small services, look upon them, ensure that each service is adding value, and look upon the life cycle of the services. And we also talk about what are the competency you as a PMO leader is required. Okay. Then we talk about PMO governance. In the governance, we talk that we have to set the systems and procedure. We have to review the systems and procedures are set to ensure that the right decision makings are happening. So that is where we talk about PMO governance. At last, we talk about problem solving and strategic approaches, wherein we talk about direct and indirect approaches. And I stress that instead of taking direct approaches confronting the problem, we should assess that the solution what we are bringing on the table, how best and implement, and who will be the early buyer of our solution, and we start implementing from that end instead of confronting with any any party, right? So with that, thank you very much for joining this session, and it was pleasure having you all in this session. As I say that I was not expecting so much of registration of this session. There were 1,400 people registered to the event, and at least I see that up to 100 people are participant to that, because depending on a time zone, it is not possible for everyone to join it. And this session recording will by default be available on YouTube channel and our LinkedIn page as well. So with that note, I leave the floor to you guys to have questions. And if there are any question, I'll be happy to answer. Now, I'm going to, now let me go to question one by one and then let me answer it. So now the questions I have here is, okay, starting with some relevant question. There were some people, those who were spamming on this, which is very bad. Okay. Okay, now the question is Dinesh Singh, who leads the PMO in our organization? How is PMO and PMT team integrated? Okay, now let's talk about the practical aspect of Dinesh here. Uh, who leads a PMO? So there will be a PMO head in a particular organization who will be leading the PMO. And PMO role is slightly different from the project management team role. Although the terminology looks similar and depending on the type of an organization, even the PMT and PMO can be defined together. But per se, in the mega project setting, it is expected that PMO works independently from the project management team, so that PMO can, you know, devise the governance procedure and implement the governance procedures in the for to the project management team. So basically, in that particular setting, PMO is a strategic link pin between the organizational strategy, the CXOs, and the project management team. So I believe Dinesh Singh, I am able to answer your question. If you have any more question, then you can ping down. Now let me go to the next question, which has been asked here. Nadine has asked, is VUCA term a common term in business? I have not heard it before. Would you love these terms? But would love to use these terms at work if it's common. So, Nadine, the VUCA term is a quite common in nowadays project management philosophies, because you know what is happening that mm, over the year, the whole project management scenario globally was, more or less revolving around the fixed approach of the PMBOK guide, or the what approaches the PMI was propounding upon. Okay. However, these approaches were not able to solve the problem of the project managers, And if you are coming from the mega project setting, the reality is that despite having systems and procedures and the way these are, the way, say various stages of the project are stage gate procedures are to talk about, is having a project charter at the beginning and then authorizing the project and having schedule and the cost, management, risk management, despite the fact that there is a huge amount of uncertainties within the projects, despite having all these project management principles and all those things, right? So this is where the VUCA term is, VUCA term has come into the picture, and I have, posted some of the blogs on my LinkedIn page. And just for everyone, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, happy to do that. Please do it, and I accept all the invitations. So I had followed a blog where I had highlighted the importance of leadership, and then when it comes to leadership, how you self-manage your stress in order to learn, in order to swim through the VUCA, environment of the VUCA environment of the mega project. So the answer to your question, I think VUCA word is getting common and common, and that is where the project management, now the new theories of the project management talks about that instead of procedural based project management systems, principle based project management system will be more flexible, and they will be adopting to the changes and able to help project manager deliver the mega projects in a better way. And that is where the agile thinking processes are also coming into the picture in the setting of the even the mega projects also. So hope Nadine, I am able to answer your question. Now, what do you suggest for a hands-on PMO creation exercise? I would like to practice, refresh my knowledge, and evolve it. Well, one example I have given it. The slide of the whole, developing PMO services is a very good. You can take several examples. Suppose you want to do You can talk about how to set a systems for schedule management system in a project setting. Okay, you can to take the whole blocks and start filling up everything, and then you will be able to know what how the services of the PMO should be there. Now, Ahmed has asked a question: are you advocating that each mega project should have dedicated PMO, or PMO is required for organization performing mega projects? Well, both the answers are correct. Both the answer to the both the questions are, I highly recommend that all the mega projects should have a PMO. Now there are various type of PMOs which I have not talked about here. There are something called EPMOs. So they are enterprise PMOs. So enterprise PMOs are good when you have a small project and there is one PMO setting in the in in an organization setting. It is managing very small project. But when you talk about mega projects are basically programs. They itself operate various projects together. So of course, a mega projects should have dedicated PMO. And as I have told you that the decision making between the projects and the organization should be made separate. And when you are managing so many projects within the mega projects, then it will be good that we have a dedicated PMO for the mega project. So Ahmed, I hope I am able to answer your question. Now, I have I don't see any more questions here. And is there any question you can just drop in here? Otherwise, we can close the session for the day. If anyone has any more question, let me check the LinkedIn also if there are questions or YouTube as well, so that I can just walk through the questions. No, I don't have any question on YouTube and additional as well. So let me quickly log into LinkedIn. So for some reason, LinkedIn is getting slower. Okay. So if there are no further questions, so I would again thanks everyone for joining this session, and then we will have a lot of useful session on project strategies, project management, and time to come. So please do follow us on LinkedIn as well as feel to get connected from me. And hope everyone has a good session. And with that, I close the session. Thank you very much. Okay, before I stop there, I've got one more question. Uh, okay, now one question was, what is the best suited PMO for mega projects? Uh, how no, Shreyas, I think I told that the PMOs cannot be defined like directive, controlling, and supportive. PMO has to be in shoes, all the three shoes. Okay, so there is no straight answer to that. Sometimes PMO has to be directive, sometimes PMO has to be controlling, and sometimes PMO has to supporting. Okay, so I believe I be able to give answer to a question. Any more question? I'm going to wait for a couple of seconds and then I'll close the session. Okay, gentlemen, then thank you very much for your participation and have a nice time.